Time Knot. An extract read by the author, C Morison. Witch's Brat. Håkon returns from his local town, where he has had an altercation with Klaus, the apothecary's son. He is carrying a metal runner for the family sleigh. The snow and ice crunched under his boots, and the metal runner for the sleigh grew heavier to carry with each step. He moved it from his right to his left arm, and counted 100 paces before moving it back again. As he passed the turning to the monastery, some crows took off from the trees ahead of him, cawing as they flew. He hoped the cause was not a wild boar, or, even worse, some wolves. Apart from the crows, nothing stirred, and the snowbound woodland held its breath, except he could hear breathing. Håkon stopped and held his own breath. Nothing. The snow-spattered trees kept their counsel. There it was again. A snigger suppressed. "Hey! Who's there?" His shout disappeared amongst the trees. He lifted the metal runner so he could make it a more effective weapon. He had the strongest sensation of being watched, but peer as he might into the irregular ranks of tree trunks and the dimly lit bushes that grew in tangled profusion amongst them, he could discern nobody. He swallowed, took a deep breath to calm his nerves, and concluded he was spooking himself unnecessarily. He walked on. The tracks left by the troop of horse had nearly caused them to lose the sledge runner, were to his right. Håkon wondered if the soldiers would be staying in town or moving straight on through. He would happily never see them again, especially their leader with his cruel eyes. A voice sounded behind him. He turned to see two boys a couple of years older than him emerging from the trees. A cold, hard clump of snow exploded off the back of his head. Staggering and turning again, Håkon ducked as another ball, more ice and snow, whistled past. Klaus Löfgren and another boy from the apothecary stood a few paces in front of him, cutting off any escape route. His only hope would be to run into the forest, but the bushes and frozen shrubs would impede him, and anyway, the boys would likely catch him. "Well, Snivelface, what have we here?" "Something stolen from the smithy, no doubt." "We should take that back, should we not?" Klaus addressed the two boys behind Håkon, who cut off his route to the town or the monastery. Håkon had no doubts that he could outrun any of them, but to do so he would have to get by them, and the stick held in Klaus's hand and the knife stuck in the boot of the boy behind him had made that a hazardous enterprise. He backed to the edge of the road and held the metal runner to one side so he could swing it if he had to. "The witch's brat wants to fight," said Klaus. And there we were, being friendly and passing the time of day. "But then, snot features, if you're asking for a fight, we won't disappoint you, will we?" He moved down the lane towards Håkon, but kept an eye on the metal in Håkon's hand. Another snowball smashed into his left shoulder, as the boys nearest the town closed in on him also. Håkon ignored it, and feeling almost outside his own body, flexed his knees, and measured where to place his feet when he sliced the metal runner at Klaus's neck. He would get in one good blow, and he wanted to make it count. "You know," a voice with a strong German accent sounded from the trees behind him, "I really do not like bullies." A horse's head appeared between Håkon and the boys on the town side. The steed snorted as it moved sideways towards the boys. Their horrified faces stared up at the rider, whose massive shoulders would have put a woodsman to shame. They turned and fled towards the town. "Now then," said the man, "that makes it a bit more even. Do you want me to umpire? I might even dismount, and then it would be 2-on-2. That's a man's fight. Are you up for it?" This final question the man directed at Klaus. "Sir, I don't know who you are. We were just having a joke." "We know Håkon, you see. Just a joke. And not really the business of a stranger." "I will decide what is my business and what is not," said the man, drawing his sword and urging his horse on. Klaus stepped backwards, slipped, and just caught his balance. "Sir, please, sir," he said, his voice rising a full octave. The man raised his sword and swept it through the branches above his head. Clumps of snow rained down on Klaus and his friend. Klaus screamed, lunged sideways, and ended up entangled in a roadside bush with snow all over him. His friend charged into the forest on the other side of the road, and a further horde of crows took flight, filling the air with their gritty cries. The man winked at Håkon and beckoned him to walk past Klaus. "Just a joke, as you say," said the man. "See, I'm laughing." He sheathed his sword, and did indeed grin at Håkon. "Now be gone with you, for I will indeed thrash you if I come across you in similar circumstances again." Klaus struggled up, his dignity, like his clothing, all askew. He had lost his hat, but ran off down the lane towards the town. "Give me a moment, young sir, and we will make acquaintance of each other," the man said, his Swedish coming out as though he had sat on it first. He rode off into the forest, ducking between trees, and emerged a few minutes later leading 2 smaller pack horses laden with panniers. "I was collecting berries," the German said, as though that explained his sudden arrival on a small Swedish lane. "Maybe you can render me an assistance." Håkon nodded, not at all sure what would come next. "I'm looking for Signy Ottersdotter, married to Mats Eklund." Håkon bit his lower lip. The man's florid face had widely spaced eyes, and under his leather hat curly brown hair peeked out above the forehead much creased by frowning. His mouth, with full lips, remained half open as he fixed Håkon with his gaze. His breath hovered about him in the cold air. Something in Håkon settled. The man's eyes, although watchful, had no guile, and he had just saved Håkon from a beating or worse. "That's my mother, sir. I'll take you to her." "That's good,"